Hello and welcome again to Seekers of Meaning, the podcast TV arm of Jewish Sacred Aging. I am your host, Rabbi Richard Address. Thank you very, very much for joining us. As you know, much of the time we spend on Seekers of Meaning has to talk about the impact of longevity and the longevity revolution on ourselves, our families, and our community. We're going to take a look today at something that has had a major impact upon all of us, and especially what is now the multi-generational cohort of older adults. And that is the impact of technology and how we hopefully approach and hopefully even more embrace technology because it's such a part of our lives. And the best person to talk about this, of course, is our own producer, Steve Lubetkin, who's an award-winning podcaster and consults and issues around this and technology and with people not only in our community here in Southern New Jersey, but around the country. He writes for the local Jewish newspaper. He now writes a column on technology and seniors for Jewish Sacred Aging on the website. I think it's on the right-hand side of the website. So we figured, let's go to the expert because she's the expert sitting right here with us. And so Steve, hi, thank you for doing this, from stepping back from behind now into front or whatever.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a little uncomfortable. Normally I'm pushing the buttons and I'm turning off my camera for these recordings, but it's nice to be here.
Treat us nicely. That's
of course.
All I can say. So, okay. So, we were talking before, the impact of this and the computer now on us and our generation. The AARP group, if you start taking a look at people over the age of 50, is really like now 3 generations. So somebody who's 52, 53, 54, first stage Gen Xers, late stage baby boomers, people who are in their late 60s, 70s, approaching 80, people now in their late 80s into 90s, all connected. So this cohort is a multi-generational cohort with 3, I would suggest, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, 3 different approaches to the use of technology and how comfortable we are with technology.
Yeah, no, it's really true because each of these cohorts has a different need for the technology. And when you get up to the, far reaches of, say, 85 to 95-year-olds, their interest in and their need for technology is probably less than everybody else. And they're content if they can get the TV remote to work properly and switch between, cable channels and streaming channels if they have both. And then when you go down to the younger ages, you have people already, taking the untethered approach and disconnecting themselves from cable and relying solely on streaming services. So, it's a wide range of interests and desires when it comes to technology. But a lot of people are befuddled because the technology seems to keep changing.
The statistics I read, that the technology changes every 6 months.
At least.
Is that about right?
And it becomes even more problematic for people when the things that they've become a little proficient with, and the biggest example, I think, would probably be from the COVID pandemic, when we all learned how to use Zoom very quickly to access our friends and our educational opportunities and religious opportunities through Zoomagogues and virtual services. Even the people at Zoom have changed the software on such a frequent, fast-moving basis that the buttons get moved around. You get comfortable with it one week, and the next week you go into the software, it updates, and all of a sudden the buttons are in a different place or they have a different name. So
right.
The technology industry itself has a kind of a responsibility and a blame, if you will, for putting people in a situation where they're in unfamiliar ground almost every time they boot up the computer.
Yeah, and if you don't have a grandchild who's totally proficient and understands this stuff, where do you go? Where do you go to begin to learn how to understand this stuff?
Yeah, and it's there's not a lot of training given, and particularly for those of us who were adults when the computers first came on the scene, you kind of had to force yourself to figure it out. There wasn't a class you could go to, although, those became available, but you also didn't have the time to go to class. You needed to be up to speed fairly quickly. So it's been a challenge. In contrast, you have the young people who have basically grown up with computers always being a part of their lives, or smartphones or tablets. And they are now what the demographers refer to as digital natives.
Right.
Because as we were discussing before, they're carrying on simultaneous multiple conversations with multiple people all the time. And they go in and out of various conversations, like changing their sneakers. Whereas in our generation, if you had a friend in a distant city, you maybe wrote a pen pal letter and waited a week to get a response back in the U.S. mail. And they would look at that and say, "What? I'm talking to them all the time."
Right. So where do people go now of a certain age to learn how to operate that new computer? Because getting a new computer could be intimidating.
Sure.
Are there, unless you go to the Apple store, let's just say, and you sit there with 25 other people, and as they roll through this thing, where would you suggest somebody says, I really like to upgrade my proficiency in electronics to learn a little bit more. I not only want to be in touch with my grandchildren, but I want to take more advantage of classes or online opportunities. Are there places to go? Where do we go?
There actually are. There's the first and foremost is people can go to YouTube. There are thousands, if not millions, of people creating videos explaining how to do things on the computer. And it's very easy to go to YouTube, just like you would to a search engine like their parent company, Google, and type in a question, and you'll get, half a dozen or more responses that are little videos you can watch, maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, that show you how to do a particular thing. And I've found them useful when I'm trying to deal with a challenge in video or audio editing, where I can go to YouTube and just say, how do I do this in this particular software? And there's at least half a dozen videos showing me how to do it. And you can look at the various ones and pick the method that works best for you. Another thing that is available, many people are active on LinkedIn, which is regarded as the professional social media site where you put up your professional accomplishments and credentials and your resume, and you network with people about jobs and job opportunities. It has, for those who pay for a premium membership, it has a wide range of training courses, again, videos and video lectures on all kinds of topics in technology and other fields. But a lot of really good ones. They purchased a couple of years ago the company called lynda.com, Lynda, and made that part of the training offered on LinkedIn. So they have a lot of really good training there. Again, it's probably a paid service. You might be able to look at a couple of them as a trial member and decide whether it's for you or not. And then again, there are a number of companies on the web that offer training classes for free, some of them, and for fees. And you can easily find them by doing a search for computer training or software training.
What are the most frequently asked questions that you get from people in the community that they know you're an expert in this, and they'll say, "Hey, Steve, I'm having trouble with this," or what are the most typical questions that you get?
Well, the biggest ones tend to revolve around the applications that people use in their daily lives on a regular basis. So email can be confusing to people. And there's also a big divide between the boomers and above, if you will, and the younger generations in terms of the use of email.
What do you mean?
Boomers tend to use email as their primary method of online communications, where if you get into the younger cohorts, the people in their 20s and 30s, they're texting more often than they're emailing. If they use email, it's because they're contacting their parents or grandparents at this point, or it's because they have to for a work-related situation, because they have to communicate with clients who are in a work environment. So for socializing, they tend to lean more to the kinds of chat functionality, whether they're using text messaging or using a messaging app like WhatsApp, which does allow you to do some telephoning overseas. So you can actually have voice conversations without incurring any kind of charges, which are kind of moot these days. Most people don't pay for long distance calls. That's kind of another thing that they scratch their heads when we talk about. Don't be on the phone for too long. It costs too much.
Remember that? I remember. It's funny you just triggered that. I'm smiling because I remember placing when I was in HEC placing a long distance call or a collect call to your parents, and the operator would get the operator. Would you accept charges from a call from, and you knew you were going to get charged for it? Yeah, it's true.
Or you would say, collect call from, pick me up at the shopping mall. I'm done. Will you accept the charges?
Right. Yeah, I think I did that once or twice. It's just such in our life, the difference, in our life is so overwhelming. It's just fascinating to me. Just absolutely fascinating. COVID changed everything, didn't it?
Well, it made people have to get up to speed in a real hurry because they needed to stay connected to the people who mattered to them. And those of us who were doing technology things like, preparing your shows and things like that were kind of using Zoom and these other platforms before COVID hit. But when COVID hit, we really had to ramp up our capabilities and people needed a lot of hand-holding because it was really hard. And I mean, it's still a battle cry among many people who go to Zoom classes that, you look at someone who's trying to make a comment and say, you're on mute. You have to unmute. And people still have some challenges with using the controls and understanding how the controls work. And, people tend to want to just learn it just enough to get by. I just need to know enough to watch the class and respond when Rabbi Address asks a question. I don't want to know how to look at the screen and understand who's next in the order of asking questions and so forth. They're not terribly concerned about that unless they're running the production.
I got to ask you because you understand this stuff much better than I do. What's your take on the impact of artificial intelligence on how this is going to change how we deal with electronics and technology?
Well, it certainly makes a lot of things move faster, and if it's used with a careful touch, it can be extremely helpful in getting information assembled quickly. But what you have to be careful about with artificial intelligence is to remember that it's really not intelligent. It's based on a machine program learning to read large blobs of text and then using a mathematical model to predict what the next likely word would be in a sentence constructed from that text. And so you run into things like a couple of years ago when I first started looking at AI, I wrote in my CompuSchmooze column for the Jewish Community Voice about asking the AI, and in this case it was ChatGPT, one of the popular AI implementations, asking it, give me a list of songs by artists who are connected to New Jersey for a radio show about New Jersey artists. And within seconds, it spit out a list of songs. And the first two were pretty reasonable. One of them was a John Bon Jovi song. The other one was a Bruce Springsteen song. But the third song was a Rolling Stones song. And I looked at that and said, that's kind of odd. Why do you think the Rolling Stones belong on this list? And the response from the AI was, Mick Jagger was born in the United Kingdom, but he spent most of his childhood in Sussex County, New Jersey.
Get out.
Now, that was the first I had heard of that. But the fact is that Mick Jagger did not spend his childhood in Sussex County, New Jersey. What happened was, in 1979, Mick Jagger was at Keith Richards' house in Sussex, UK, where he was arrested for possession of marijuana. And the juxtaposition of the word Sussex and the AI assuming that the most likely word to follow the word Sussex is going to be county, and the most likely next word is New Jersey, and it pulled that all together in what they now call an AI hallucination. They actually make up facts based on these mathematical probabilities that even their own developers don't always understand. So the answer with AI is that right now you have to look at it really carefully if you're asking it to do factual research. If you're asking it for directional information, like suggest some topics for me to talk about at my next men's club meeting and describe the members of the club and what their interests are, it'll pull together a pretty reasonable list for you to think about. But if you're asking it to write you a term paper or heaven forbid, a court document, as we've seen in a couple of cases, it'll make stuff up completely at random. And a couple of lawyers have gotten in really serious trouble with judges for using AI to generate courtroom briefs that included legal citations that were completely fictional. It just made them up and they sounded good. But then when the other lawyers tried to find them, they couldn't find them.
Your experience, you've had experience also in developing tech for synagogues and, streaming services and stuff like that. So you're sitting on the other end of the camera or the machinery and everything. I love and we've recorded podcasts with people who do this. And what's your take upon this as a consumer, as an active member of a synagogue, but also who has worked with that synagogue in developing their electronic footprint? This idea obviously is here to stay. What's your take on it? Does it take away from your sense of spirituality or meaning, or you just say, this is the way it is now, and I'll deal with it?
No, I think it's a combination of things. I think there's nothing better than people getting together in person in a community and sharing, whether it's a synagogue service or a synagogue activity, or, even just breaking bread together. That's, doing it in person has so many different layers to it that it's absolutely essential. On the other hand, there are people who, for a variety of reasons, can't connect with us that way. Whether they are shut in or they have physical impairments or they just can't get to a physical in-person service, and excluding them by not offering the opportunity seems to me to be a mistake. And we've seen that. We saw this during the pandemic when we were the first year of the pandemic at what was then Temple Emmanuel in Cherry Hill. I helped them produce completely pre-recorded high holiday services over the course of the entire high holidays, which we streamed out over the live stream channel for the synagogue as if it was happening live. And people were able, because we couldn't be in the building, we were not allowed to be physically in person. And people sat at home and watched a service, and they probably had a better view of it because we recorded it with close-up views of the clergy and television production, techniques of cross-fading the cameras and switching the cameras. And everybody had a good view. Everybody had the best seat in the house. And we got hundreds of people watching. And then the next year, we were able to do a hybrid service, a combination of a few hundred people in person and people on the live stream watching live. And in that case, I brought my equipment to the synagogue, set it up in the sanctuary, and we live streamed the services. And when I looked at the server logs afterwards, one of the things I found out was that for one of the services, we had people watching the service from every city mentioned in the song Dancing in the Streets. You remember Martha and the Vandellas?
Yeah.
I mean, every city that was mentioned, Detroit, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and London. There were people logged in from all those cities. And what that tells me is you have an opportunity, if you're a synagogue leader or a synagogue spiritual director, you have an opportunity to reach an audience far beyond the audience you used to be able to reach. It was usually as far as you could distribute your flyers at the local grocery store. Now it's a worldwide audience.
When I worked with congregations and we talk about, increasing membership or this and another thing, I started many years ago to say there's no reason, you're not geographically bound anymore.
That's right.
You really, and we have synagogue like Central or Park Avenue or a lot of other ones. They really do have an international footprint and have members
Oh, sure.
um, who've joined on a level. They again go to services, but they're very happy to engage in the service electronically. So I can't understand why more and more synagogues just don't understand that and build up their tech. They're like a minister of technology.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what they call it in the Christian churches. They call it the technology ministry.
I think you've written in one of your columns how we as older adults can be or protect ourselves from the scams that come across electronically.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Could you just speak to that? Because there's so many people who just, we get between Social Security or your car warranty, or you owe money to the IRS, and if you don't pay it, they're going to come and arrest you, which they may do anyway now. But could you talk to us a little bit about that linkage?
Well, yeah, the first thing people have to realize is that most of these organizations will not contact you by email or by text message. So you're never going to receive an email from the IRS telling you that you owe them money. They will send you a letter in the mail. It will be computer generated. It will come in an envelope that says Internal Revenue Service, and it will have your information printed into the letter. So anytime you get a voicemail from someone saying you owe the IRS money and you can get rid of this and get the warrant canceled for your arrest by going to the store and buying Apple gift cards, you should immediately just delete it. Don't respond to it. Don't do anything, just delete it. And the same goes for any emails or text messages like that. You should never click on the links in those kind of emails. And when you get an email saying this is confirming that you've made a purchase of something, and it's typically a piece of software, and the charge against your credit card is going to be $499. The purpose of that kind of email is to get you to be frightened and immediately click on the link to challenge the purchase. And that's what they want you to do, because the link is not going to help you challenge the purchase. The link they're giving you is going to take you to a fake website where they're going to try to get you to type in your credit card information so they can steal it. Now, I have to be honest with you, a lot of these scams look really good. A lot of the telltale signs that you used to see, like bad English or misspellings or improperly proportioned designs, they've gotten a lot better at making them look real. And so they even caught me. I fell for one that said your card was declined for this purchase, and I knew it was a purchase of internet-related business stuff. It was a domain name, registering the name for a website, and I didn't look at it too carefully, and I clicked on it, and it took me to a site to enter my credit card, and I entered the card number and clicked submit, and nothing happened. And then I looked at the name of the website and I said, oh my gosh, they got me. And so I immediately called my bank and canceled the card. And I was lucky. I canceled it right away, so no charges ever hit it. Although that afternoon, I got a call from my bank saying, did you try to add this card to Apple Pay? And I said, no, I didn't. They said, good, because it had a block on it and we denied it. And I said, good, that's what you were supposed to do. So obviously the scammers, the scam in that case was collect the credit card numbers, add them to Apple Pay, which is a digital wallet you can keep on your smartphone if you have an Apple phone. Someone was trying to add it to a wallet and then would use it to scam me somehow that way. But fortunately, I caught it in time. But I was caught by the initial scam. So you have to be really careful and look at the email address that the email is coming from. But if it sounds the least bit fishy, don't respond to it and don't click on any links in it. Instead, call the institution on the phone number that you know is that institution's phone number and talk to them directly.
What's the greatest benefit, do you think, of technology for our generation?
Oh, I think it's the connections. It's keeping in touch, because we now have the ability to talk to our friends and family all over the world and share, videos and photos and, have things going on without it being a difficult challenge. Again, going back to the pen pal letters, you used to write letters to people. Once in a great while, you'd make a long distance call, which was expensive back in the day. There's almost no expense connected today with writing to more people, because you can write the emails. You can write one email to several hundred people, and everybody can share their news, like not a chain letter, but like the family holiday letter, if you will, can go electronic, and many of them have. So I think just people keeping in connection with each other and sharing the joys of their lives, and also sharing, having someone to lean on when they have sad times. So there's a lot more opportunity to stay connected, and to also see what's going on with the younger people in the family, by being at least a little literate in the ways that they like to communicate. So, for example, boomers are really big on printing out photographs and putting them in picture frames around the house. But people below the age of boomers tend to keep all their photos on their phone. They don't tend to print them out. So having a way to share them with a shared album, for example, is a great way, so you don't have to email pictures of the grandchildren back and forth. You can put them in a shared folder where everybody can see them. Things like that. So it's a way of keeping in greater connection, and also knowing what's going on in people's lives. I know that most of the boomers who are on Facebook are there because of, connecting with grandchildren and, adult children, and finding out what's going on in their lives, but also with their friends in the community. And everybody, when you get together, everybody knows what everybody else has been doing because they all saw it on Facebook. So you have a deeper opportunity to have conversations in person because everybody already knows the news that you posted 2 hours ago.
Have you run across people in your professional life in advising people who are basically technophobic, if that's the right word? They said, I would like to do, I just can't handle that.
A great many people in the boomer cohorts feel that way. They feel,
really? Still?
They get frightened of it. They're afraid they're going to break something.
Really?
There's not much that you can do that's going to hurt the computer. Worst case scenario, it doesn't know what you want to do and it stops doing anything productive for you. You can always restart the computer and start again. It's really just a question of how much time are you willing to take to learn how a particular program functions. So, there are common things that happen to people. I have a friend who was writing a document, and if you highlight the text in a document, you better do something with that highlight, because the next key you push is going to change the document. So if you're in Microsoft Word, is what I'm thinking of, you have everything highlighted and you push the space bar, all the text disappears. Because what you've told it is, all this text that I highlighted, replace it with what I type next.
Oh.
And that's not always the intention. The intention is usually I highlighted it because I want to copy it somewhere. And knowing what you're doing when you perform that keystroke sequence is important. And also knowing how to get it back, because there is a way to get it back. And for those of you using Microsoft Word, the secret password is Control-Z. You press the Control key and the Z key, and it undoes whatever you did last.
Well, that's good to know. I wish I had that in the rest of my life. Just push a button and I can.
Right. We didn't have the Control-Z key when we were kids,
Control-Z. There's a name of a science fiction novel, Control-Z. That's really cool. That's really cool. Thanks. I have to write that down. If somebody wants to, you may not want to do this, but you're very generous with your time. Do you want to, and also for the podcast stuff, if somebody wants to connect with you, where do they go?
Sure. They can email me. They can write to Steve at Lubetkin, actually. I reserved a domain name in India. So the domain, what they call the top level code, the 2-letter code is IN, which nicely corresponds to the last 2 letters in my name. So if you email Steve at LUBETK.IN,
get out.
I will receive the message.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It's one of those things that you can only do if your name corresponds with a country code.
With a country code, right. Before we end, just there are people who are listening to this and saying, "Yes, but what's the best pieces of advice you can give to an older adult who wants to learn more, wants to do more, but still is a little intimidated?" And I'm very happy just being able to talk to my grandchildren.
Yeah, I mean, dive in with the grandchildren because they'd be happy to show you if you say, hey, I want to learn how to put pictures in a shared album so I can share them with you. Or I want to learn how to use, say, Zoom better so that I can Zoom with you more. I suspect that the kids, for the most part, would be happy to help.
Just occurred to me, you saying this, are there groups around areas of older adults who come together to share ideas about the use of technology and sort of like learn from each other?
I have to believe they exist. I don't know of any specifically, but certainly it does happen organically in some of the groups that I'm involved with, whether it's like a men's club at a synagogue or some of the other lunch groups that go out. They talk to each other about what they've learned and how to do certain things. So there is that.
I know you can go to the Apple store and you sit around a table and listen to the person tell you very quickly how to do things. And
that's part of the problem is that a lot of the instructors talk too fast because they are younger and they know how to do it very quickly. And what you need to do is slow down and give people a chance to absorb. And it also takes, a lot of practice because until you get to the point of muscle memory on these things, it can be confusing and people need to sometimes write down what steps to take. And to do things, in an orderly fashion. So
yes, but it is here to stay, is it not?
Oh, no question about it. Yeah. We're not going back.
So either get on board or just get off the train, right?
Well, we want everybody to get on the train as much as possible.
Yeah,
that's how they stay in touch and stay awake and alert and engaged in all sorts of things.
It's fascinating, and I really thank you for this conversation. I really do, because I've learned now Control Z, but not only that. It's just there's just so much to learn and so much to absorb. But once you enter the arena and give yourself, I think, permission to fail.
Absolutely. Nothing is undoable. Like we say, Control Z. You're not going to hurt the machine. You're going to learn. And there's more than one way to do things also. That's something that people have to keep in mind. Someone will teach you one way of doing it. There may be 5 other different ways of doing it. And one of them is probably going to work for you in your head and make it easier for you to get the things done that you want to get done.
Steve, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And you can go to the website and Steve's column is there, and you can email him at his new address and in India. Hopefully, it gets back to Cherry Hill. So, thank you very much, and I'll see you. I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely,
on Zoom or in person. Say hello to the family and Thomas, the new grandchild.
Thank you. I will.
To all of you, thanks very much for joining us. And if you have any further follow-up questions or concerns about what we're talking about technology for older adults and seniors, just email me, Rabbi Address at jewishsacredaging.com. We do appreciate it. If you'd like to support our work on the website, jewishsacredaging.com, there is a donate button. Or if you'd like to become a sponsor and sponsor a series of these, just email me again. We'll take it from there. And as you've gathered by now, these podcasts are produced at Steve's company at the Broadcast Center of Lubetkin Media, right over his shoulder. Again, thank you very, very much. Till we see each other again at the next Seekers of Meaning, thank you very, very much for joining us. We do appreciate your time and look forward to hearing from you. And especially as we get closer to the holidays, it's not too early to start wishing all of you a Shana Tova and just health and joy and peace in this new year, and be kind to one another. Shalom.